station thing, like turning your dreams into reality just by using the power of your mind.
Sounds pretty powerful.
Right. A listener sent us this podcast called Mindset Magic, and, well, it definitely had me thinking, like, is this for real or just some wishful thinking?
It's definitely a popular concept these days.
Yeah, for sure.
And the podcast kind of presents it as this mix of psychology and neuroscience. Like the idea that your thoughts can really influence your actions and then ultimately what actually happens in your life.
So they even make this comparison, right? They say your mind is like a magnet,
Yeah.
attracting opportunities that match whatever you're focusing on. So, like, if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, you're just going to bring more negativity your way. But if you're all about positivity, gratitude, and, really clear intentions, that's what you're going to attract. Does that really work like that?
Well, that's the idea they're going for. And they actually lay out these 3 key points to put this mind magnet idea into action.
Okay, I'm listening.
First up, you need clarity.
Okay.
Like, it's not enough to just wish for a better life.
Right.
You got to get specific, define exactly what you want.
Makes sense.
They even give this great example.
Oh, yeah.
They say, like, I want a fulfilling job is way too vague.
Yeah, that's pretty broad.
But I want to lead creative projects at a tech startup. Now that's specific. That paints a picture.
Right, right. So it's like you're setting those coordinates for your mental GPS.
Exactly.
So once you've got that, that laser focus on what you want, what's next?
Point number 2 is emotional alignment.
Okay, so now we're getting into the feelings.
You got it. You need to feel as if your goal is already a done deal.
Wow, okay.
Like, think joy, gratitude, that feeling of accomplishment.
So, like, it's already happened.
It's like your emotions are sending this signal out to the universe that you're ready for this.
Okay, so it's not just about thinking it. It's about feeling it. Like, you're already living it. That's starting to get really interesting. So what's the third point? Do you just, like, sit back and wait for the magic to happen?
Definitely not. The third point is all about action.
Oh, okay. So there's work involved.
Manifestation isn't about just daydreaming. It's about taking steps towards your vision.
Okay, so, like, setting the intention, but then actually putting in the work to make it happen.
Right.
I mean, I've heard a lot of successful people talk about manifestation, like Oprah, Tony Robbins. But is there really any science behind this, or is it just, like, good vibes?
Well, there's actually some pretty interesting science that lines up with these ideas.
Lovely.
Yeah. One big one is neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Which basically means our brains can change and rewire themselves based on our thoughts and experiences.
So, like, you're actually changing your brain.
The podcast highlights how visualization, really picturing yourself achieving your goal, can activate the same parts of your brain as if you were actually experiencing it.
So it's like a mental rehearsal for success, training your brain to believe it's possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Priming your mind to spot those opportunities and act with more confidence.
Wait, so they're saying just by thinking about something, you can change how your brain works. That's kind of wild.
Well, the research on neuroplasticity does suggest that our thoughts can have a big impact. The podcast even brings up the placebo effect,
Oh, yeah, right.
where people experience actual physical changes just because they believe they're receiving treatment. Even if it's just a sugar pill, it's a pretty powerful example of how our minds can influence our bodies.
That is mind-blowing. So let's say, for argument's sake, we buy into this mind over matter thing.
Okay.
How do we actually put it into practice? The podcast talked about a 5-step formula. Right?
He did, and they were really big on journaling and meditation. They said those practices can really help. They quiet that inner critic, reduce doubt, and help you focus more on your goals.
So it's like creating this space in your mind where manifestation can actually happen.
That's the idea.
Okay, I'm all about those practical tips. Let's break down those 5 steps. What's step 1?
Step 1 is ask.
Okay.
It's about writing down what you want, but in the present tense,
Oh, interesting.
as if it's already happening.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I want to work remotely from Bali someday, you'd write, I am so happy working remotely from Bali.
Wow, so you're not just hoping for it, you're embodying it. Like, it's already true. That's a pretty big shift. Okay, what's next?
Step 2 is believe,
Okay, believe.
which honestly can be the hardest part.
I can imagine.
It's about letting go of worrying about how it's going to happen and just trusting the universe or maybe your subconscious to guide you.
I can see how that would take some serious faith, especially when you're just starting out.
Uh-huh.
Okay, on to step 3.
Step 3 is where things get really vivid. It's visualize.
Okay.
Spend at least 5 minutes every day imagining your goal using all your senses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, what do you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel in that ideal scenario?
Engaging all the senses?
The podcast even had a guided visualization exercise to help listeners get immersed in that experience.
That's so cool. I love that they made it really tangible. Okay, step 4.
Step 4 is act.
Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road.
This is about taking inspired action, following those gut feelings you get, taking advantage of opportunities that seem aligned with what you want.
Okay, so it's not just visualizing and good vibes. You got to actually do something.
Exactly.
Okay, and the final step.
Step 5 is receive.
Receive.
It's about staying open to possibilities, being grateful for what's already showing up in your life, and being ready to embrace all the good things coming your way.
Wow. Okay, I see how these steps all work together. It's like
Right.
a combo of mindset, action, and trust.
That's it. And while they might sound simple on the surface, there's a lot to each step. They really want you to dig deep into your own beliefs and motivations.
Well, you know me, I love to dive deep. But what happens if you're following all the steps and things just aren't working out like you thought? What are some of the common mistakes people make with this whole manifestation thing? The podcast talked about that too, right?
They did. And one big one they pointed out was focusing on what you lack
Oh, okay.
instead of what you want to create. It's easy to slip into negativity and complaining,
Yeah.
but that only reinforces those feelings of lack.
It's like that saying, what you resist persists. You have to shift your focus to what you want, not what you're trying to get away from.
Exactly. And another big one is impatience.
Ah, yes. Wanting everything right now.
We live in this world of instant gratification.
Yeah.
So it's natural to want to see results right away, but manifestation is a process. It takes time, effort, and trust.
It's like expecting to plant a seed and have a tree tomorrow. You have to nurture it, give it time.
Speaking of nurturing, the podcast had some really inspiring examples, like Jim Carrey writing himself a $10 million check for acting services rendered years before he actually made that much. Yeah. That's a great example of visualization and self-belief in action. And there's Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx. She visualized her success while working a totally unrelated job selling fax machines. It just shows that having a clear vision and really believing in yourself, even when things around you don't match up, can be so powerful.
It's like that saying, you have to see it to believe it. But maybe it's actually you have to believe it to see it.
Right.
The podcast host even said they manifested their own podcast. They made fake cover art a year before it even existed. This just goes to show, even those small steps toward your vision can create a ripple effect.
For sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The key principles, those 5 steps, the science behind it all, those common pitfalls, and even some inspiring examples.
We're just getting started. This deep dive into mindset magic is already fascinating, and we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, more layers to uncover.
I'm ready to keep digging, but we're going to have to take a quick break.
Welcome back. You know, it's kind of crazy to think our thoughts can shape our reality.
I know, right? We were talking about that before the break.
But then it makes you think, what about the flip side?
Oh, yeah?
Like, could we be accidentally manifesting bad stuff too?
That's exactly what I was thinking. If we can manifest good things, it's like, why not negative experiences too? That's kind of scary, isn't it?
It definitely makes you wonder, right? Like, how do we manage our thoughts and beliefs so we don't accidentally manifest something we don't want? And that's actually where things get really interesting, because a lot of these manifestation principles, they actually overlap with therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT.
Oh, yeah, CBT.
The type of therapy that focuses on how your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all connected.
So it's like we're using therapy techniques to reach our goals.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
CBT teaches us that those negative thought patterns, they can lead to negative emotions and actions. But if you can challenge those thoughts and reframe them, you can actually create more positive outcomes.
So it's like, if you're always dwelling on your fears and doubts, you might actually be creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, attracting those negative experiences because that's all you're focused on.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Your beliefs about yourself and what you're capable of, they play a huge role in what you can actually achieve.
The podcast talked about vibrating high and attracting what you put out there. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. When you're feeling positive, grateful, confident, you radiate a certain kind of energy that's more likely to attract good things.
But let's be real, we can't be positive all the time.
No, of course not. We're all human. Life throws curveballs. You're going to experience negative thoughts and emotions. That's just part of life.
Phew, that makes me feel better. Who could be positive 24/7? Doesn't seem realistic.
You're right.
So how do we deal with those negative thoughts when they come up? Do we just try to ignore them?
Ignoring them usually doesn't work. It's more about acknowledging them without judgment and then choosing to shift your focus.
Okay.
Mindfulness can be helpful for this. It's basically being aware of your thoughts and feelings without letting them totally sweep you away. So a negative thought comes up, you notice it, but you don't let it take over. You choose to see it in a more positive or maybe neutral way.
So instead of getting stuck in a loop like, I'm never going to get that promotion, it's more like, okay, I didn't get this promotion. I'm learning from this, and I'm going to keep working toward my goals.
Exactly. You're focusing on solutions instead of getting bogged down in the problem. And remember those setbacks, they're normal. It's how you respond that makes the difference.
So self-awareness and emotional regulation, those are key for anyone who's serious about manifestation.
Absolutely. The more you understand yourself, how your thoughts and emotions affect your actions, the better you'll be at creating the life you want.
It's like manifestation is a form of like personal empowerment, right?
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. It's about realizing that you have power. You can shape your reality, both internally and externally, but it's not about controlling every little thing. It's about working with the universe, not against it.
Okay, so let's talk about action for a sec, because the podcast made it clear manifestation isn't just wishing and hoping, it's about aligned action. What does that even mean?
Aligned action means taking steps that match up with your goals. It's about listening to your intuition, those nudges you get, and going for opportunities that come your way. It's about moving towards your goal in a way that feels good, aligned with what you believe in.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart.
Right, and being connected to your inner compass.
But what about those times when you just don't know what to do next? You feel stuck.
That's when you go back to the basics.
Yeah.
Clarity, emotional alignment, belief. Sometimes we get so caught up in figuring out how that we forget why we started in the first place.
You need to reconnect with that core desire and make sure your actions match that vision.
Exactly. And remember, trust the process. Even if you don't see results right away, keep taking those aligned actions. Trust that things are happening behind the scenes, even if you can't see it yet.
Okay, I want to go back to what you said earlier about manifestation and CBT. Are there specific CBT techniques that are especially helpful?
There are. One powerful one is called cognitive restructuring.
Okay.
It's basically identifying and challenging those negative thoughts that might be holding you back.
Can you give me an example? I'm not sure I'm picturing it.
Sure, let's say you're trying to manifest a great relationship, but you have this belief that you're not worthy of love.
Ouch, yeah.
That belief is going to sabotage you no matter how much you visualize or take action.
So how do you use this cognitive restructuring thing to deal with a belief like that?
First, you got to become aware of the thought. Then you challenge it. Ask yourself, is there any proof that this is true? Or what are my good qualities that I bring to a relationship?
It's like you're putting that negative thought on trial.
Exactly. And often when we really look at those negative thoughts, we find they're based on old experiences or beliefs that aren't helpful anymore.
So you're basically rewriting the script in your mind, replacing negativity with more positive beliefs.
Exactly. And by changing that inner dialogue, you create a better environment for manifestation to work.
That's amazing, that we can change our thoughts and change our lives. It's a lot of responsibility, though.
It is, but it's also incredibly empowering. The more we learn about our minds, the better we can use them for good.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects. Manifestation is about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with your goals, challenging limiting beliefs, focusing on the positive, and taking action. But what about the role of the universe, a higher power? The podcast talked a lot about trusting the universe. Where does that fit in?
That's a great question, and it's where things can get kind of philosophical or spiritual. Some people believe that manifestation is about surrendering to something bigger than themselves and trusting that it will guide them.
So letting go of the need to control everything and trusting that things will work out, even if you can't see the big picture yet.
Exactly. Having faith that there's a plan, even if we don't understand it. But it's not about being passive. It's about taking action while trusting the journey.
It's like you're co-creating with the universe. Your intentions and your efforts mixed with trust.
I like that. It's about finding that balance between putting in the work and letting go. Taking action, but staying open to surprises along the way.
This makes a lot of sense. But what happens when things don't go as planned? Does that mean we did something wrong?
That's something a lot of people struggle with. You have to remember, manifestation isn't a magic spell. It doesn't guarantee specific outcomes. It's about aligning yourself with what you want and trusting the process. Sometimes things show up in ways we don't expect. Or maybe the timing isn't right.
So it's not about forcing things to happen. It's about setting the stage for things to unfold.
Right. And remember, there's no one right way to do this. What works for one person might not work for another. It's about finding what resonates with you.
Like any personal growth thing, we have to figure out what works for us.
Exactly. And be patient. Manifestation is a journey, not a destination.
And every journey has its ups and downs. The important thing is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing you can create the life you want.
I love that. Embrace the journey and trust that you're exactly where you need to be.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like we really got into the nitty-gritty of this topic.
I agree. There's always more to explore, but I think we've given our listeners a really good understanding of how this works.
And guess what? We still have another part of this deep dive to go. In the final part, we'll bring it all home, talk about what this means for you and how you can use these principles to start manifesting your own dreams. Stay with us. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into manifestation. It's been a wild ride, right?
It has. So many layers to unpack.
We've talked about the science behind it, the practical steps, even the kind of philosophical stuff. But our listeners are probably thinking, okay, what does this all mean for me? How do I actually use this in my life?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway here is that manifestation, it's a process. It's inner work and outer action. It's about getting your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, and your actions all lined up with what you want to create.
It's like taking ownership of your own life.
Exactly. It's understanding that you have the power to create change.
It's that whole, you can't just wish for it, you got to work for it, but with an extra layer of mindset. It's not just about the effort, it's the intention behind it.
I like that. It's combining action with this deep trust, this sense of allowing things to unfold.
So someone who's brand new to this whole manifestation thing, where do they even start?
I always say, go back to those 3 key points from the podcast: clarity, emotional alignment, and action. Get really clear on what you want, cultivate the feeling of already having it, and then actually take steps towards your goal.
Simple, but powerful, right? And don't forget those 5 steps. Ask, believe, visualize, act, and receive. It's like a roadmap for making it all happen.
Absolutely. And the more you practice these things, the easier it gets. Like any new habit, it takes time and effort to really make it stick.
The podcast was really into journaling and meditation too. How do those practices help with manifestation?
Journaling is a great way to get clear about what you want, and it helps you spot those limiting beliefs that might be holding you back. Plus, you can track your progress, see how your thoughts and beliefs are changing over time.
And meditation is all about quieting the mind, making space for intuition, right?
Exactly. It helps you tune into your own inner guidance system.
Okay, let's talk about what not to do. Those common mistakes. We talked about impatience, but what are some others?
A big one is focusing on what you don't want. It's easy to get caught up in negativity, but that just creates more of it. You want to put your energy towards what you want to bring into your life.
So instead of, I don't want to be broke anymore, it's more like, I am abundant and prosperous.
Yes. Frame your desires in a positive way. Feel the emotion of already having it. Another mistake is getting too attached to a specific outcome.
Oh, okay.
It's great to have a clear vision, but the universe might have other plans. If you're too rigid, you could miss out on something amazing.
Right, it's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Sometimes we gotta let go of how we think things should be and just be open to the possibilities.
And even when things don't go our way, it's all part of the learning process, right?
Every experience, even the tough ones, can teach us something valuable. Sometimes those challenges lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
Okay, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to start manifesting their dreams?
Trust yourself. Trust the process. You have the power to create a life you love. Start small, be patient, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
This deep dive has been incredible. I hope everyone listening is feeling inspired to go after what they want and create a life that truly lights them up.
It's been a joy to share this with you all. You're capable of amazing things. Believe in yourself and take that first step.
Thanks for tuning in to the deep dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into something awesome.